Hello, star seeds, and may the 4th be with you. And welcome to this astrology chat all about synastry, aka relationship astrology. Now, before I get into this particular astrology chat, I just wanted to preface the chat with the fact that I will no longer be doing astrology lives. I'm going to instead take the time in crafting a presentation in regards to astrology and how things are going in the world, because we are in a very spicy time astrologically right now. So I have a presentation prepared in regards to synastry, and I have a case study also prepared to help illustrate how relationship astrology actually works in real time. So get ready. We're going to go through what synastry is, and then we're going to do a case study using none other than Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, which I think is a very topical couple, well, ex-couple for us to look at as a case study in terms of the stars. Welcome to my presentation on synastry, aka relationship astrology. What exactly is a synastry reading? So if you were to go to an astrologer and ask an astrologer for a synastry or a relationship reading, what does this mean? We're then going to go into a case study with, as I mentioned previously, of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And finally, we're going to close this with why and when you're going to want to look at relationship astrology. What is synastry? I know it sounds really fancy, and synastry, I like to tell people that synastry is not limited to love relationships. They can be readings done for siblings, so sisters or brothers. They can be readings done for parental relationships or any type of relationship. They, of course, are something that is primarily looked at through the lens of, let's say, a love relationship, but it is not only exclusively meant for that. So with that said, here are some very important points about relationship astrology as a whole. I did have a few people approach me asking if there was an easy way to tell if someone was meant for them based on their sun sign. And the short answer is no, you can't tell. So synastry in astrology is about the art of relationship astrology. And it is not as simple as saying, hey, I'm a Leo. Will I get along with a Scorpio? Because every person has all of these luminaries and planets in their chart, but how these energies interact with each other is entirely unique. So planets such as the moon sign, Venus, as well as Saturn, can play important roles in an astrological synastry reading. And so to show how this is going to look like in action, I'm going to do a case study of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Now that I've given you some background into what synastry or relationship astrology is all about, we're going to go into a case study about the very timely case of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. So I'm going to go into each of their charts separately, considering the major alignments and planetary signs in each of their charts. And then we're going to bring that together and look at the chart as a whole. What we'll then look at is what this kind of means for you if you can kind of consider yourself as akin to some of these signs. Because when you were born, all of those planetary alignments were your own, you're going to find that in every person, there's going to be some similarity to you. And so I find that with every reading of a person, you can also derive a learning lesson in terms of what your planetary alignment means for you. So without further ado, let's get into this case study. We're going to start with Mr. Johnny Depp. So he is a Leo rising, which I don't think didn't surprise me that he was a Leo rising, to be very honest. And I'm going to get into why in just a moment. His sun is in Gemini. His moon is in Capricorn. Venus sits in Taurus. His Saturn, and this is very interesting, is in Aquarius. Pluto sits in Virgo, and the North Node is in Cancer. Now, there are a ton of other planets and other things going on in this chart. I am not focusing on that. I'm instead focusing on the planets and alignments that are usually looked at when you're looking at a relationship kind of astrology. And let's look into each planet and what I pointed out and why. So we've got Johnny is a Leo rising. I have a few friends who are Leo risings, and Leo risings usually have great hair. Your rising sign is the sign that you typically is a first impression sign. It is the sign that people commonly will mistake you as at first impression. It's also thought of by astrologers as a sign that you are in childhood before you kind of mature into leaning into more of your sun sign. So in terms of Leo rising and being that fourth front, showmanship, here I am energy, also great hair. So yeah, Johnny's got great hair. Definitely the Leo rising, it makes a lot of sense in terms of how successful he's been as an actor. His sun's in Gemini, so he's definitely got that chameleon aspect to him. If you look at all of his roles, he's totally got that Gemini aspect going on, being able to adapt very well to whatever the role asks of him. And that is very much Gemini energies. And we'll get into how that plays with Amber's chart in just a moment. So that is your sun sign, what your sun sign sits in. Your moon sign is typically about your emotions and how you feel. And so that's a good planet to look at when you're looking at relationships. And his is in Capricorn, which will tell us a lot when I get into their charts colliding, because Capricorns, and I have been very lucky to gain a lot of Capricorn friends in my life over the last few months, are all about steadfastness. Capricorns, Tauruses, and Virgos are all earth signs, and they gain with that very practical, grounded nature. But Capricorns have this little extra spice of being ruled by Saturn. And so that comes with it a little level of what I call like that hustle, that push, that like nothing's going to kind of stand in my way. But when you think about emotions, it brings with it this quiet but steadfast way of dealing with emotions, right? It can also bring with it obsessiveness, which we know from like Johnny's past use of like substances and such, like that it kind of makes sense with how that kind of played out with his emotions and trying to deal with rigidity in his life. His Venus is in Taurus, which I can like, hey, love it. The way you love is where that planet, that Venus is all about your relationships and how you love. And so Venus sitting in Taurus is the fact that once he's committed, he will be committed. And also he loves good food, good wine, good drink, a little bit hedonistic in terms of love. So that's what Venus in Taurus is all about. Next, we have Saturn, which sits in Aquarius. And the reason why we're looking at Saturn is because Saturn represents father figures in our lives, as well as how we look at rules and rigidity, as well as contracts. So Saturn being in Aquarius means that he is very innovative in terms of the way that he looks at rules and ways of doing things. I think that love for Hunter Thompson is very much expressed by Saturn being in Aquarius, because his way or his view of looking at the world is very much not average. And Aquarius is about pushing boundaries and that mad scientist energy in the way of working and this regular way of doing things and time and life. So Saturn Aquarius, very cool aspect, I think, for Johnny to have. We also have Pluto in Virgo. I like talking about Pluto a lot because Pluto is all about transformation. It's also the planet that represents sex. Pluto in Virgo means that there's a generation having to do with a little bit of perfectionism, and not really knowing why. Virgo can come with it as well. It does have that maternal energy around it. There can be a little bit of stress in terms of the relationships between dealing with the mother and change. And I think that that is actually kind of seen in what we've seen in terms of Johnny's own personal relationships. But if we look at a generation being in a particular sign, Pluto is in Virgo. North Node is all about your fate. And in this case, Johnny's not North Node is in Cancer. So from that perspective, it's the North Star. It's kind of like where you're going in life, your purpose, your fate, and being in Cancer. Kind of love this. I got my little space Sailor Moon buttons, ruled by the moon. And it's all about caring and family. And so his true purpose in life is all about his family. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to want to have someone in his life who supports the building and support and stability of home life. With that, we're going to flip to Miss Amber Heard. It's really funny because Amber and I are very close in birthdays. So we don't know her birth time. So we don't actually know what her rising or ascending sign is. Very interesting to note that we don't know this information. If anyone can figure it out, feel free to shoot it my way. So her sun, though, is in Taurus. Her moon is in Libra. So both her sun and her moon are ruled by Venus. Her Venus sign is in Taurus. So her and Johnny actually have a conjunction in Taurus with Venus. So that's a very powerful connection to have. Her Saturn, which is another planet to look at because it looks at rigidity and rules and how you conduct yourself in life, is in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is known as the philosopher of the zodiac, but can also be very intense. And I think if we look at the way Sagittarius can kind of play with Aquarius, those energies can sometimes come in conflict where those underlying values lie, I guess, where they come into conflict. And finally, just like me, and just like a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I know, we're the Pluto and Scorpio generation. I'm going to be making a video just about that. And Scorpio deals all about with the underworld, the underbelly, what's not necessarily talked about on the surface. And so it's good to kind of note that she's from that generation, which is very different energies from a generation of Pluto and Virgo. And finally, her North Node is in Aries. And that's really interesting because that's her fated purpose. So I was kind of playing with this idea in terms of an interpretation of her North Node as being as her purpose is actually going to be activation of masculine energy in a weird way. So we'll get into that when we look at the chart itself. Okay, so now that I've gone through Johnny's chart and Amber's chart, I'm going to show you it's going to look very complicated at first, chart which overlays both Johnny's chart and Amber's chart on top of each other. And the beauty of astrology is the angles are what is important. What is also important to note is that nothing is good or bad in astrology. There are simply just energies that you have to work with. What is important is how you wield them. And I think that perhaps Johnny and Amber would have benefited by seeking help from an astrologer when they first got together, because they do have a very powerful connection, but they do have a lot of stuff to work on communication wise. So with that, I'm going to just share my screen. All right. So as you can see here, partner A is Amber and partner B is Johnny. You can already tell from the date of birth. As you can see, there's actually a huge gap in their age groups because Pluto is a generational planet. It takes about 8 years or so for Pluto to transit. So their Pluto being in such different signs is also something that could present a bit of a challenge in terms of their relationship. Amber is in the blue outside. And then we've got partner B. Let me just make sure that I've got that right. Gemini, yes. Okay. Johnny, partner B, his sun, this is the sun sigil. It's sitting in Gemini. If we look at Amber, her sun sign is sitting in Taurus. Now, first of all, let's take a little bit of a step back and look at the fact that both of their Venus signs are conjunct in the sign of Taurus. And you can see that right here because you got Venus and Venus right here sitting right next to each other in the sign of Taurus. This is a very powerful connection. Taurus as a sign is ruled by Venus. And so Venus sitting in Taurus is a double connection. Now, as with all connections and conjunctions, with powerful energies can also come explosiveness. Tauruses are known for that steadfast kind of true way of pushing forward, but that energy can also explode. And so I think while there's a lot of good stuff going on with this, there are also a couple of challenges to look at in the chart. Amber's sun is on the cusp of Aries. So there's very much this explosive energy. And if we look at her moon being in Libra, she's very much concerned with the way that she appears to the public. The way that she appears in the public eye is super important to her. Because if we think about the moon and the moon circling the earth, all of the energies of the other planets filter through the moon's energy. And so Libra is all about, as much as balance is a part of Libra's MO, so is this idea of appearing perfect. Like everything is okay, even though things may not be. Let's bring it back to another aspect where we have, this is Virgo right here. I always get confused between Virgo and Scorpio sometimes, but when we look at Virgo, we can see here that Mars is opposing the sun in Amber's chart. So we've got the sun in Taurus opposing Mars in Johnny's chart. So what does this mean? I didn't bring out Mars in each of the individual charts, but this is a major aspect because you can see here there's a huge strike through. So there's this major angle at play. And this is why when you're looking at two people's charts, you can't necessarily just pluck one chart and pluck another chart and go, hey, these people are going to be a perfect pair, or these people are not going to be a perfect pair. If we look at Johnny and Amber here, there seems to be a lot of great connection. If you look at the way that Venus loves each other, they love each other very much. There is definitely that deep connection there. But in terms of the way that they fight, the way that they communicate their needs to each other it's definitely not on the same page. It looks like Amber demands a very much passion, a certain level of intensity at all times in that relationship. And if we look at the fact that Johnny's North Node is actually in Cancer, he's actually going to end up gravitating towards wanting to have more stability in that home life. So if we think about the North Node as being a lunar mathematical point, which is the sum of parts of all of your chart, Johnny's North Node is in Cancer, meaning that he's seeking a partner who will want to bring that stability in his home life. His children are very important to him, as you can hear from the case that's going on right now. And Amber, her North Node is in Aries, and that's all about fire and passion. And I am here. It is about me. It is my intention. It's what I want in this relationship. They are very much not necessarily the same types of purpose if you think about gravitating forward. Although, in my opinion, I think that this case and what is going on right now with Johnny and Amber is going to function as a type of way of Amber activating or reactivating masculine energy outward again. Because at the end of the day, everything is justice, and Pluto is in fact going retrograde right now, and we are experiencing a Saturn return. And so if we look at Saturn again, Johnny's got his Saturn in Aquarius, and due to the fact that we are going into the age of Aquarius, the fact that such a planet in his chart is going to be aligned with the way that we're going only speaks to the fact that he's going to function as a way of us. The way that the rules will shift in the future is going to be dictated by this case, which is what the astrology is saying to me right now. As well as Amber, her North Node being in Aries, she's going to function in that way of bringing masculine energy into this reality in some sort of way. Maybe not the way that she intended, but in some sort of fashion. And finally, I'm going to leave this chart and this reading with this, in the sense of, if you look at all of these angles and everything happening, if someone were to look at a chart, you're going to see squares, you're going to see conjunctions, you're going to see trines, and all of these things are neither bad nor good, nor skewing anything or anything else. It's more or less just to have an awareness of what is going on. Because if you think about what's happening astrologically in the world today, that is going to impact the way that your relationship is feeling at the time as well. So Venus going retrograde can cause perhaps a lot of issues in many relationships if you have a lot of planets and a lot of things in your chart that are ruled by Venus. And knowing that can help you accommodate for that and tough it out perhaps, so that you can make it through to the other end and enjoy the fruits of having a wonderful and well-tuned relationship, right? And so I finally leave this with this final slide, where if you would like to book your own synastry reading, you can reach out to us on our website. I'm going to be putting up a specific area just for synastry readings tonight, or you can email us just to have some questions about what a synastry reading would entail and if it would be right for you, because ultimately you can do this with anything. Doing a synastry reading with my mom actually helped me understand a lot about us. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in to this segment of Astrology Chat, where I talked all about synastry readings and went through a case study of Amber and Johnny Depp. Stay tuned for more on a weekly basis. I'm going to be trying to do this on a weekly basis on Wednesdays. except just not as alive these times. If you have any ideas as to other couples you would want to see me do a synastry reading for, please drop that in the comments. And otherwise, I will see you next week with a reading on JFK and Marilyn Monroe. Until next time, goodbye.